There, guys, are two big feet, and they're staring right at us. I wonder which one's a female and which one's a male. I can't tell them apart. Guys, I gotta be real. I think the one on the right is definitely a female. I don't think we need to test anything. We'll definitely have to do some lab tests. I don't know. I think it's the one on the left. Guys, it's definitely the one on the right. I'm pretty sure of it. We'll have to investigate tonight to make sure. Heck yeah, I want to investigate. Not me, guys. I think I'm going to bounce on this one.
5 minutes later.
Todd, did you hear that? That sounds so familiar. It sounds like Star Wars. Sounds like Chewbacca. I'll tell you what that is. That's the mating call of a Bigfoot, little buddy. That's a Bigfoot. Are you sure that's a Bigfoot? Because it doesn't sound much like a Bigfoot to me. It does sound like it's getting closer. That's the mating call of a Bigfoot, buddy. Something's coming, Todd. I can feel it in my bones. Oh, it's definitely a Bigfoot, buddy. Yeah, it's definitely a Bigfoot. I know what a Bigfoot sounds like, and that's definitely a Bigfoot. Nope, I think that's a grizzly bear, and we should run. Wow, those two Bigfoots were trying to make babies. We better leave.
Why are you running? Why are you...
Hey everybody, it's the Shape, and can you hear that? It's nature all around us. The weather has been horrible, but I am trying to film the Running Man location, but thunderstorms are popping in and out, in and out. So right now I'm just getting my lights ready and the setup, and I figure, you know what, while I'm waiting for that perfect night, we may as well do another video in between, because you got to please that algorithm, and this is a banger. And it's all about Bigfoot. Now, there's a channel called Cabin in the Woods. Makes good videos, kind of like Thinker Thunker. And debunks people that are skeptical of Bigfoot. But he does it in such a way that a lot of the things he points out are interesting and entertaining. But are they right? Well, let me tell you. Let's get into this video right now. If you've been on my channel any length of time, you'd probably know I'm a horror movie fan, and that's important because I don't claim to be a Bigfoot expert at all. But when it comes to visual effects and practical effects of creature features that would fit perfectly in the Bigfoot community, I like to think that I know quite a bit about it, as much as I've just watched behind the scenes stuff, how this stuff is created. I mean, that's what led me to debunking to begin with. And I want to tell you a little about practical effects. Creatures, when they go to film a movie, unless it's like low budget, when they make a creature, they do it in a way to fit the story they're telling. Like if a director has, like, okay, I'm going to shoot the creature this way, and the next scene I'm going to shoot the creature this way, and then I'm going to shoot a close-up, then I'm going to do a wide shot. The reason they do that is to tell a story, but the effects artists have to look at storyboards of how the director plans on filming the scene. And if it's a close-up of the creature, it's going to be close to the face. So they'll build a big head, and they'll make that head an animatronic to where the mouth moves, the eyes move, it blinks, the facial muscles and nerves move, and slime's coming out or whatever. That's for close-up shots. And then they'll build a completely separate creature effect for like a wide shot of the whole body moving. It don't have to be as detailed in the face because the scene doesn't call for a close-up on the face. The scene calls for the creature to walk. And then if they're doing a far-off shot, they'll say, okay, how are we going to make this, let's just say Bigfoot. How are we going to make this Bigfoot move convincingly because we're showing the whole body and it walking? Well, it's far away from camera. We'll put a guy in a suit. It's that simple, because if you're going to try to build a cyborg animatronic that moves by itself with no effects artist around, that not only takes time and money, but a budget. So they just put a guy in a suit and they'll make the suit look like the creature. It just depends on what scene they're shooting. Now we're going to get into this video of Cabin in the Woods, and you'll understand why I've been saying this. Take it away, Cabin in the Woods.
I'm about to show you proof that the most controversial Bigfoot footage in history doesn't deserve the waves of hate it's gotten over the years, and that the evidence actually supports the idea that this footage is 100% authentic and shows real living Sasquatches.
And see, right out of the gate, when you say something's 100%, that means there's no room for any criticism, which means supposedly everything that Cabin in the Woods is about to point out is a legitimate Sasquatch. No room for argument whatsoever. And he goes into this whole thing completely biased. Obviously, I've done watched the whole video. Completely biased. And that's a problem if you're looking at things objectively. See, he's the side that's looking into it, and he wants to prove Bigfoot exists. I'm the side that looks into it, but I think Bigfoot does not exist. Not anymore. Maybe Gigantopithecus days he did, but not no more. Show me a body. And I don't want to hear that, well, how many bear bones have you seen? Bears, when they get sick and stuff, they walk and they dig their own graves and they jump in it. I've seen bear bones 3 times in my life that I know of. Myself. But I've never seen a Bigfoot. Show me a bone. Show me a tooth. Show me a body. They can't do it because they don't exist.
But even crazier than that is the mountain of unfounded lies and accusations launched at the man behind the camera, Todd Standing. Lies and accusations based on absolutely nothing substantial whatsoever, and in some cases, deliberate manipulation of the facts.
Oh, did I forget to mention that this video is on Todd Standing? A lot of the people, especially in the Bigfoot community, they don't like this guy. They think he's a hoaxer, a faker, and they went through extremes to make it look like he's a hoaxer and a faker. In fact, unfairly at times. Just like the face dissolve of Todd's face into a Bigfoot's face, and they like do a dissolve to where it's his face. That's him behind the Bigfoot makeup, which was absurd. I never believed that, because that wasn't a makeup effect. Todd even wouldn't be that stupid to do it that way. And, well, it's just a creature effect. It's a big head and bust with servo motors to make it blink. That's what it is. It's just a practical effect.
Of course, I was familiar with the 2 faces, had always thought they were odd, but I also tried to temper my reaction by telling myself, you don't want to reject something because it doesn't look like what you expected it to look.
And normally with Jeff Meldrum, I would agree. But not in this case, because the creatures that Todd showed look like they're made of practical makeup effects, animatronics, puppetry, and just, yeah, latex and other things that you use to bring a fake creature to life. That's exactly what it looks like. Doesn't look like flesh and bone. And I'm going to point that out as the video goes on, because that's what it is. I've seen enough to know. I ain't an expert in a lot of things, but when it comes to creature effects, I'm not too shabby.
My name's Robert. I'm a Canadian filmmaker and researcher, and ever since having my own Sasquatch encounter in September 2024, I've been determined to learn the truth about these mysterious beings. It's also why I knew at some point I'd have to delve deeply into the infamous Todd Standing collection of Sasquatch footage.
Oh yes, the old classic story. I never believed in Sasquatch till I came face to face with one. Love those stories. Any proof? No. Just a personal experience that you can't validate. But he's going to look into Todd Standing, and while you would, supposed to be unbiased. Not this guy. No. He's...
Oh, Todd. It's biased.
Which is disappointing because, like I said, this guy is good at what he does. He makes entertaining videos.
If his footage is real, it represents some of the clearest, closest, and most detailed visuals of Sasquatches in history.
That's why I didn't want to mess around with any speculative theories from outside sources.
We sat down for a remote interview recently, and I launched every single skeptical question and accusation I found online directly at the man.
How do I know this is an animatronic blinking eye? Because nothing on the face moves, not even the eye pupil or anything. The only thing that moves is that one little spot above the eye. Look closely, watch. Just that one little point moves. None of the nerves, none of the muscles, nothing else moves except for that one little spot above there. And that's not how something living works. You're going to have facial twitches. It looks like this, and this is poorly done, believe it or not. Now look at this animation right here, though. I made both the top and the bottom eyelid move, and it looks more natural. Because that's the way the face works. There's muscles connected to nerves.
Probably the most infamous accusation, Todd, is that the Sasquatch face in your clip, video 5, I believe, known as Jake, is actually just you in prosthetic makeup. People say this all the time. We've all seen that infamous photo online of the purported Sasquatch Jake on one side and an old photo of you on the other side, and people draw lines between the eyes of you and the eyes of Jake. And
You gotta remember, guys, if it looks like a man, walks like a man, if a man can even recreate what you're showing, that's a problem. When you see a real Bigfoot, you should never mistake that for a dude in a suit. Moving on.
Todd's account of using the needles visible on the trees in some of these shots as measuring tools to get a reliable estimate of the head size of these beings intrigued me.
So I've brought this still frame from Todd's video 5 into Canva here. This is the subject he calls Jake. Zooming in to this foliage in front of the subject's head, you'll notice that there's this one twig front and center that has these few small orange needles on it.
So, cabin in the woods here, and I don't have a problem with it. He is using pine needles to measure the head of this Bigfoot, which that's smart. It really is. I have no problem with that. But I want you to pay attention to exactly what he does, because a little bit later he's going to do it again to another Bigfoot. And well, let's just say he does them completely different. Let's see you measure, big boy.
This is a Rocky Mountain Douglas fir. Rocky Mountain Douglas fir trees have needles that are consistently 1 inch to 1 1/4 or at most 1 1/2 inches long. And that applies regardless of the tree's size, age, or location. We're going to draw a line covering one of these needles from tip to bottom. So this is our 1 inch measuring stick. And now we're going to clone it, make a copy of it, and move that copy end to end with the first one. 10, 11, 12, just zoom out a little bit, 13, 14, 15.
Okay, so far I guess we're on the same page. You've seen him measure the width of the Bigfoot head. And I'm sure by now, if you have a little bit of debunking skill, you don't see a major problem. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt and keep moving on.
If you look up the average head width of an adult male human being, you're going to get figures anywhere from 6 to 7 inches. This is considerably more than double that. So therefore, Jake's head is at least 15 inches across. And furthermore, you'll notice that Jake's face in this image is not quite directly onto the camera.
Change your locations, guys. It started raining. Told you. Now, he spotted his mistake. Let's see how Cabin in the Woods goes about correcting that mistake. He knows the Bigfoot wasn't looking straight at the camera. So, let's see what he does.
He's facing a little bit diagonally, which means that the apparent width that we're seeing in this still frame is actually deceptively narrow compared to the reality if he were looking at us directly front on.
Yes, you heard that right. He said had the Bigfoot been looking straight on the camera instead of like this, it would have been even bigger. But that's an absolute load of horse crap. And I'm going to show you right now why that is with this animation. So he said the head looking straight at the camera is wider than the way he measured it. So let's check on this human head. Same size line, and looky there. The head looking straight at the camera is smaller.
I'm going to add on top of this still frame this image of a standard 12-inch ruler.
So after he uses the pine needles, he uses a ruler and syncs the ruler up with the inches of the pine needles, which is cool.
This is a representation, a scale image of what a standard 12-inch or 1 foot long ruler would look like.
And now he's going to compare his head in scale to the Bigfoot head, and that right there is supposedly the size difference if he were standing right beside it. So I did a scale. I cut both heads out and I put on the scale on a Bigfoot drawing, and that would be about how big it would be.
Particularly interesting to me is some sign that Todd Standing interprets as Sasquatch sign, which I had reservations about when I arrived, but about which I'm changing my mind.
And by that, I think he's talking about tree structures. Todd seems to think that big feet, build the tree structures. But a human can do that as well. And if a human can do it, unless you see a Bigfoot doing it, you gotta you can speculate, but you can't say a Bigfoot did that. If a human can recreate what the Bigfoot's doing on video, whether it's a tree structure or the Bigfoot itself, if the human can recreate it, that's a problem. Like I said, you shouldn't be able to mistake a Bigfoot for a human being. Ever.
Now let's see if we can do a similar experiment with this still frame from video 4, the subject that Todd Standing calls Jane, the purported female Sasquatch. In this case, we have quite a good and crisp visual of the needles and foliage of a coniferous tree directly in front of her face, so we'll use that as our reference.
Now, you remember earlier in the video how he measured the supposed male Bigfoot's head? Well, he's going to do that again with the supposed female Bigfoot. Let's see how he does this one. So here we are measuring pine needles again, which, hey, I'm not mad at it. I think it's cool to use measurements like this. I mean, I do it as well. But let's see how he measures the female in comparisons to the way he did the male Bigfoot. Let's keep an eye on this guy.
14. Now, I may have gone beyond her face there. Yeah, I think I have a little bit, because we're getting into the dark mane of hair, so I'll remove that last one. So we'll say about 13 1-inch ticks.
So what does he do for this Bigfoot? This female Bigfoot? Completely changes the way he measures it. More than likely he did that to make it smaller, because they say the male Bigfoot's bigger than the female. And that's pretty much what he did here. The male Bigfoot, he went completely from the side of the head, even though it was looking this way, all the way to the back, all the way to the main back. Once again, here's the female Bigfoot, and he stopped perfectly on the side of the head. But let's look at the male. He went all the way to the back of the head. You can see through the tree right here that the line goes all the way to the back. And on the female, he went from the side of the head about halfway. So when he measured the male Bigfoot, he went from the side of the head all the way to the back of the head, as you can see through the tree right here, to make it bigger than the female Bigfoot, which he did go from one side of the head to the other. He didn't go to the back of the head. He wanted the male Bigfoot to be bigger, which his head would be 15 inches. All the way to the back, but the female, if we did it the same way he did the male, look how many more we can add in inches. I mean, this is 19. Two completely different ways of measuring. And that's why you can't take anything you say seriously. I mean, take a look at this.
So we've got a minimum of a 13-inch wide head here, and again, in all likelihood, it's wider than that. As with Jake, this is far wider than any normal human head, or even abnormal human head. Okay, so I've got at this point what I feel is a fairly accurate size approximation of the heads of the creatures in Todd's clips, based again on the relative size of the Rocky Mountain Douglas fir needles visible in those clips near the heads. But the needle comparison doesn't really directly address the comparison between Todd's head and the head of the creature he calls Jake that has been floating around the internet for so many years. So next, let's look at that comparison visually under some intense logical scrutiny.
Now, the skeptics that did this Todd's face compared to the Bigfoot's face comparison, leave the community of skeptics. We don't need you, because what you did was you manipulated the picture. And that doesn't help anything. But anyway, let's take a look at what you did.
Let's compare Todd's face to Jake's face. So we'll zoom in here on our friend Jake, and then we'll add a screenshot of Todd that I took from the very conversation we had for this video.
So now he's coloring in Todd's eyes, and then he's going to see how much of a distance in between Todd's eyes there is. How many eye width distances. And that's what he's doing here. He's going to see how many fit between Todd's eyeballs. The problem being,
Yeah, it's about one eye width on, he says, pretty much any human. I don't know how much accurate that is. But nobody ever said Todd was wearing prosthetics. That don't make no sense. I mean, I guess somebody could have said it was Todd wearing makeup, but I never thought that. I've always known this thing was an animatronic.
But if you're skeptical, you might still have a serious question. What about that infamous photo that we've already referenced, the one with Jake on one side and Todd's face on the other, and how, when they're morphed together, they look pretty much the same?
So whoever did this warped Todd's head to make it appear like it fit, and that was a load of crap.
And that's the problem with the skeptic community. That part of the skeptic community, that's what gives skeptics of Bigfoot a bad name. I mean, Cabin in the Woods, you manipulated the footage right in front of everybody, though. I mean, those pictures when you did the measurements and, you know, said if the Bigfoot had been looking straight on, it will be bigger than if its head slightly tilted to the side. No. But moving on.
And we'll restore full opacity to the recent Todd here. Do you notice any problems here? Let me show you that again. Transparent, opaque. Transparent, opaque. The eyes, nose, and mouth all match up. But look at Todd's head in the older blurry image. It's way fatter, taller, and much wider than this recent version of Todd. His ears are clearly visible in the old and blurry image compared to the more recent one. This image of Todd was deliberately morphed and warped in Photoshop to try to prove the point that Todd is Jake.
And that is unfortunate. Doesn't do a service to the Bigfoot. Why is that blinking? Doesn't do a service to the Bigfoot community at all.
Well, that settles it beyond any logical shadow of a doubt. Whatever these creatures are, they absolutely are not Todd or any other human being in a mask or makeup. They can't be. It's physically impossible.
People have pointed out that Jake seems to have hair going right up to the cheeks and obviously a fairly uniform, thick coating of hair around the forehead going up into the sagittal crest. Right. Whereas Jane seems to have a fairly bushy, almost mane of fur around the head, they say, and then much shorter fur or almost no fur or hair.
So they're taking the Bigfoot faces and pointing out the similarities and the differences between a male and a female Bigfoot. But I want you to just take a look at these images right here. See, these aren't real Bigfoots, but man, don't they just look eerily similar to Todd's big feet? Just had to point that out there.
Around the face, so there's a perceived difference there, and people think, well, if these are supposed to be the same species, what gives? They look different. So what are your thoughts and responses on that?
If you put me beside my Ashley, you would think we're almost not even the same species. I have a beard. I have what you just said. I have the hair that comes up. She doesn't. Like what you're seeing with Jane too is a mane. It's that bright sunlight hitting on the skin, and then really creating like a separation look where it looks almost like a mane. But she has all the little hairs on her face, like I've seen Sasquatch do. And if you actually, that's been perplexing to me because they actually have the same eye spacing. They match if you put them on each other. They match with the eye spacing. Their nose looks the same. Their lips are pretty much, they're so similar. So I see extreme similarities. The only difference is, again, if you're talking male and female, there's serious sexual dimorphism. So the males are much larger than the females. So you're going to get beard, you're going to get excessive hair. Males are excessively hairy. And then of course, conditions. My God, I had cloud cover for Jake. Cloud cover, Robert, as opposed to direct sunlight in the shadows of the trees. That's going to create such a different skin look, skin pigmentation. You know, you're seeing way more details on Jake because I'm getting much more clarity because I'm not getting overexposed with the light.
So Todd's definitely not wrong about serious physiological differences existing within the same species. Two individuals of the same species might naturally vary. Dr. Meldrum states, quote, "There are variations between the subjects shown, but that doesn't invalidate their potential authenticity."
You're absolutely right. Except that these things are no better than practical effects, and poorly done ones at that.
If your Bigfoot footage has any of these categories within the footage itself, then more than likely it's fake. And now I'm going to rate all of Todd's Bigfoot videos, and I'm going to see how many of these boxes it checks off. It's dark or bad weather, There's something obstructing the Bigfoot, whether it's a tree, weeds, etc., poor quality camera or shaky cam. Bigfoot is far away from camera. When it's a good shot, the Bigfoot hardly moves.
They could simply be different individuals.
I think those two are like brother and sister. Like, they look so absolutely similar. Hair is just messy one day and maybe a little less messy. Maybe she got recently groomed. Like, I don't know.
Notice in the faraway shots of Todd Standing's Bigfoots, his Bigfoots shrink down to human size, and it's absolutely hilarious. How many marks does this Pee-wee have? Number 2, number 3, and number 4. Another full-body shot of Bigfoot here, and of course he is tiny. How many marks does Pee-wee have? Number 2, number 3, number 4. Not good. When Todd comes in on the medium shots of Bigfoot, he looks massive. It's an over-the-shoulder shot, and Bigfoot can only move up and down. How many marks does the big guy have? Number 2, number 3, and number 5. Here's another medium shot that's similar to the other one we just watched, where Bigfoot looks massive, and of course it's from behind, over the shoulder, where we can only see the back of Bigfoot. We can't see the legs, and it can only move up and down. How many marks does this Bigfoot footage have? Number 1, number 2, and number 5. So Todd has 3 practical effects. He uses the back from behind for the medium close-ups. For full body shots, Bigfoot shrinks into man-sized. And then he has the real close ones that are detailed that are only heads and shoulders.
It was this part of the video that really intrigued me, because they started showing a lot of the footage that Todd Standing has caught over the years. And I noticed something that creature effects artists had the same problem with. You remember earlier in the video when I was telling you they build more than one creature and they have different movements based on what the director wants for a camera shot. And I noticed something that, well, stands right out, to be honest. When the Bigfoot is running far away, he shrinks to man-sized on Todd's footage. Every single time you see it running full body, it looks tiny. And let me tell you something. There's nothing about a Bigfoot that should look tiny. Ever. These things, the stories you hear, oh, this thing was 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 feet tall, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 pounds. But when we get a close-up shot in Todd's videos, like the night shot where it's behind a tree conveniently and you can't see the lower half, or when he's aiming up and it stands up and then sits back down, what do we see? We just see the back of it. Over the shoulder, back of it. And it's huge. But it's only, in those close-ups. And on both close-ups, it's like they're using the same prop. The same angle, everything. And you can't see the lower half ever.
So Todd built a big upper body of a Bigfoot. That's why you can't see the legs when it's up close like this. The legs are always covered.
Strange. But like I said, when they're far away, they look like little skinny, little dweebs running up the hill. It's laughable. But when close up, we only get to see the back of it. Then we get the face shots. And you can see the shoulders slightly. And it blinks like an animatronic. Yet the face doesn't move and doesn't look like something that's alive. We have nerves and muscles in our face. When we blink, even though the bottom eyelid don't go all the way up, it still slightly twitches when we blink. And even when monkeys blink. Bigfoot's a different thing, I know. But the forehead doesn't twitch. The lips don't slightly quiver. The nostrils don't flare out in Todd's footage. Nothing but a fake looking blink. And it slowly moves. Nothing a man can't recreate. And that's a big problem. All of his footage is like that. Every bit of it.
So here's the tree hiding our big, massive Bigfoot. Now Todd goes over to that tree, and look how little he is in comparison to whatever that was. My question is, I want to see all the footage, all the raw footage. Why does he stop recording all of a sudden? Why didn't he walk up to the Bigfoot? But the Bigfoot is much more massive than what Todd was. I blended the two shots together. There's the Bigfoot, there's Todd. I lined the trees up, that way you could get a good size comparison. Now I'm going to give you an even better one right now. that Bigfoot would be this much bigger than Todd. 12 foot tall, maybe. Yet, here's our little peewee.
Muscular. It just doesn't show up on film whatsoever. You lose that size proportion over when you get footage, and especially in the mountains. But yeah, so much more massive. Again, look at orangutan males and females. Wow, right? Like orangutans have pads that stick out as opposed to the females. So there's not that kind of difference. There's much less difference, significantly less difference in the Sasquatch males and females as there are in orangutans. That's the differences in the male and female Sasquatch.
These are living creatures on our planet. Now take a good look. Now I want you to look at a poor practical effect.
And Kubota, he seems to have darker skin. I actually agree with that. He really has darker skin.
I got up there, and then he shows out and unveils this blackface. The dead, like he calls it.
The devil. In response, I'm thinking to myself, well, this looks more like I might have expected. I mean, it had this black face, very apish, chimpanzee-like face, with a very receded hairline, heavy brows. You know, there were molds and bumps on, creases across the forehead, and
very wide set eyes, as I recall, as well.
I'd never seen this one before, but it looks just like the others. You see the eye blink, and there's sticks in front of his face. Like these two, sticks right in front of the face.
I had never seen that footage before. I guess Todd recorded it. But a close-up of the face again, and it's obstructed again. And it's close enough to where we know it's a Bigfoot, but it's not close enough to where we can get good details, pupil dilation, eyes moving different directions, facial twitches, nerves, quivers, nostril flares, forehead wrinkled up. None of that. We just get to see it peeking through that little, something a man can recreate, as always, because that's all Todd can catch with close-ups. They never can get that face matched with a body walking right there on camera. In all of its gigantic Bigfoot glory.
You could still make an argument that although these beings certainly aren't Todd or any other human in a mask, they could be animatronic props, some sort of roboticized fake creatures designed to move convincingly and create the illusion of living beings.
Not could be. Cabin in the Woods, that's exactly what those heads are. They are man-operated practical Bigfoot effects. A head and a bust. That's it.
Like a Hollywood practical effect, I think Todd built an upper body bust of a Bigfoot that's hollow on the inside for weight and manipulation purposes. You can get on the inside of it, you can move it easier. You have a guy on the inside that can manipulate the eyes and even manipulate the body up and down. It's not a stretch.
They don't move like a living animal. Period.
In fact, that's more or less what the authors of this PDF that I found online have said. This document is entitled A Critical Examination of the Todd Standing Sylvanic Subjects.
And it wasn't just written by regular Joes either. One of the authors is Daniel Faulkner, a Weta Hollywood special effects artist. So let's examine their claims about Todd's work point by point and see how they stack up against logic. So the first point made in this document has to do with the eyelid and eye movement. The claim is that the eyes in video 4, the creature known as Jane, don't move, don't blink, and don't dilate. And this is suggestive, according to the authors, of a static prop with taxidermy glass eyes rather than real eyes on a real creature. But here's the thing. Eye immobility is not proof of a hoax. Wild primates often fix their gaze or avoid making eye contact, especially when they're under a perceived threat.
The difference being the one on the left is a practical effect that's done horribly, and the one on the right is the actual creature, and you can tell that. Furthermore, I wonder why you slowed this down to 30% speed. I bet the one on the right made a movement you didn't like.
And this has been noted by primatologist Jane Goodall, who observed it in chimpanzee behavior and said, quote, direct eye contact can be perceived as a threat. Now, according to Todd Standing, the creatures he filmed here knew that he was there.
Oh, so the big feet knew that Todd was there, and they're like, even though they're not apes or monkeys, they're something else completely. They averted their gaze and allowed Todd to record them on camera They knew he was doing it, and they just stood there like, I don't care. But if they got to avert their eyes from Todd, how would they know? Todd said, from what I heard, he knew that they knew the general area, but not exactly where he was. And I'm going to point that out later where he completely messes up his story. But how would they know where to avert their eyes? And when you get to hear Todd say how he got there, you know, undercover where they didn't know he was there, which they did, but they didn't. I know it's confusing, but just bear with me.
She's not bobbing her head around, and she's not ripping around with her eyes. She's looking for me. She's very intently. If you ever see a deer looking for a wolf, they freeze up and they stare.
Multiple things wrong here. First off, did the Bigfoot know where he was, or did they not know where he was? Because he said they knew where the Bigfoots knew where he was, and now he's saying he was looking for him. So how would they know where to avert their eyes? Like a deer in a headlight that you claim. Even though that would apply that you're a predator and the Bigfoot's the prey. And a deer being scared of a truck with bright lights is a bit different than a little girly man going up to something that's 9 feet tall that could squash you with one hand. I don't think they see you as a predator, Todd, at all.
It's also worth noting that although critics cite the lack of pupils in Jane's eyes as another sign of fake glass eyes, pupils actually are clearly visible at certain points in the footage.
You know what, Cabin in the Woods? You're right. There are pupils in those glass fake eyes, but they don't move. They don't contract looking into bright light, and they don't move at all. At all. They don't look left, they don't look right, up, down, not even slightly. It's as if they can't move because it can only blink.
Take a look, guys. This is a fake eyeball. It's looking directly toward the sunlight, and the pupils don't even dilate, nor do they move at all. That's a fake eye.
The next claim has to do with the lip edge, mouth shape, and nasal seams on these purported creatures. Firstly, the authors claim that the lips of the creature called Jane look like painted latex.
This is coming from a VFX artist, practical effects artist, my bad, who does it for a living. Yes, it looks like a creature made of foam latex. Poorly done, mind you. Not good. Wasn't even sculpted properly. Just enough to fool some people. But that is no Bigfoot head, I'm telling you.
And a line beneath the nose is called a seam, suggesting mask construction. But latex-like appearance can also result from dry, cracked skin.
Jane looks like she has too much foundation on her. It's all dimply and pasty and hasn't been smoothed out. They also drew attention to one of the corners of one of their eyes, and they said, you know, it doesn't have the proper little nictitating membrane in the corner of the eye.
That little caruncle. And again, so I found there was a picture of a young orangutan whose little button eyes looked identical to what was on the figure.
Let's zoom in on the monkey's eye. Look at the layers. You can look closely into the eyes and you can see the layers of all the inner eye pieces because it's alive. Now take a look at this big, ugly, dead eye. It has no life in it. You can tell that this isn't a real living being. There's no life shine. Maybe it's got cataracts.
Why are we only seeing the faces in those shots? Didn't they move their bodies? Why wasn't the camera panning down to show physiological movement beyond just the face?
First of all, it's because it's what people focus on. They always seem to want more. Just never seems to be enough, because you know what actually happened, Robert, is video 2 and video 3 were first. And you know what everybody said to me? How come all we see is body? How come we don't see any face? Video 2 is a Sasquatch standing up from behind and squatting back down. And video 3 is a Sasquatch running away from me.
Can anybody not see the difference in video 2 and video 3? Video 2 has a big, bulky monster of a Bigfoot. Huge. We can only see the upper half, unfortunately. And it's not moving its arms. It's kind of just sitting down and standing up. You know, like a couple of guys are lifting it and dropping it. But that's neither here nor there. But when you get to the full body shot, that's always far away. It looks like a dude in a suit, a little skinny dude in a suit that probably ain't a bit more than 6 feet tall. They look like, oh, but I know the excuse. Oh, it's an adolescent Bigfoot. That's why it's so tiny. It's a dude in a suit clumsily running up the hills. I mean, even Corridor Crew called this nonsense out. It's horrible.
So people for years, how come we don't see a face? How come we got no face? Then I give them a face, and what do they say? How come we don't see the body? How come and it's like, which way do you want me to go? I gave you a body already. That was when I first started. Then you complain you want a face. And Jake, believe me, I wanted more. That was the whole incident behind what happened with Jake. Is I'm taking a shot. And this is in my mind. I'm zoomed in. This is a brilliant shot in perfect crystal clarity. I get it for like maybe 8 seconds. I turn the record off and I turn the power off. And I get down into my ghillie cloak and I move closer. So I got the shot. There's nothing better than this. I got the shot. Can I get better? Yes. And that's why you see progressively I'm moving closer and closer and closer until finally I stood up out of my ghillie cloak and went right after him to get the shot.
This is pathetic. Now, he slowly moves in on the Sasquatch. You can even see the angles change over time, yet the face never moves at all. You get a blink. You don't see no twitch, no slight mouth movement, nothing. Maybe this Bigfoot had a stroke and his face is paralyzed. Where's the footage of when it ran off, being as you said you stood up and started recording and all that?
Okay, so we've settled that the beings in Todd's footage cannot be Todd or any other human being in a mask or makeup. And the case for them being some other form of fakery, like animatronics or CGI, is at best circumstantial and subjective.
Yep, just like all the claims you and I made as well. You know, back in earlier in the video when you said it was 100% when, you know, proof and there's no room for anything else. We can have this argument all day long. Back and forth, back and forth. Out of all the Bigfoot hunters that go out, all the shows that have covered Bigfoot, and there's a lot of them. Not just Bigfoot, Dogman, everything. Mothman, Bat Squatch, Sheep Squatch, Chupacabras, whatever. Well, Chupacabra actually was real, but not like the legend. But that's neither here nor there. All these shows, even on YouTube and other social medias, finding Bigfoot. Every show has something in common. All of them. Without exception. They go hunting for Bigfoot. They'll find a footprint. They'll find a tree structure. They'll find some weeds pushed down and say that's a Bigfoot's bed. They'll hear noises in the woods at night. What's the one thing they never catch? Ever. Not one time. A Sasquatch.
So what are Todd's critics to do? Well, it turns out the next move in their arsenal is to attack Todd personally with lies.
This event that apparently included someone seeing you and your vehicle and a pair of gorilla gloves and or an entire ape costume, and you essentially, according to this person, tried to brush it off. Isn't that convenient? But what would be your response to someone who came across that accusation online, didn't know what to think about it?
Yeah, it was Solo Phil was with me. I did a little expedition with him and his girlfriend, and I think it was his girlfriend saw the glove just on my back seat. It was one. What happened was so my brother-in-law has my nephew, just love him to death. He was a gorilla for Halloween. So after the Halloween costume was in, and the gorilla glove on him was big, but fit my hand quite tightly. And he thought, he gave them, he said, well, as I do winter work on my vehicle, like I would wipe the snow off, I never use gloves. He says, well, maybe if they were Bigfoot-like gloves, you'd use them. So just as a joke, I put the gorilla gloves, and they're really tight on my hand, like for a little kid, right? And I've never filmed a little Sasquatch hand, like the hands that are in my documentary. This is way after my documentary was out too. Since that actually happened, he saw that gorilla glove, and again, one cracked because I actually tried to use it. They break in the winter, and I just threw it in the back seat, and I just forgot about it because I'm a really messy guy.
So you threw it in the back seat, but then he says this.
What he didn't tell you, it was like underneath the frickin' tire chains. She had to move tire chains, like, all this crap. It was a pile of junk and garbage on it. When they pulled it out, it was a crushed mess of a stupid little kid's gorilla glove. Even
Todd Standing's own story isn't making sense. He said he took the glove, threw it in the seat. And then he said the lady that found this ape glove had to dig under tire chains and all this other stuff to get to the crumpled up glove. Which one is it? Your story ain't making sense. Why would you even have it? I mean, if somebody's calling you out for staging and faking and they find an ape glove in your car, to me that's a problem. And Todd should know that he's highly controversial. So yeah, of course people's going to question that. I mean, I'm not saying he used it. He probably didn't. But it being there is a bit odd.
But then, talking to the wife, I said, so what is it with all these stories about you being in the costume industry in Hollywood? She goes, costume industry? She said, I did makeups for proms and weddings, makeovers rather, for proms and weddings on the side as a side hustle, because I had some cosmetology training, had worked in a salon for a while. So I was just doing this as a side hustle when we were kind of pinching pennies.
Okay, so his wife is supposedly a makeup artist. And they think that she's the one that did Todd's Bigfoot heads. I can't say for sure, but she's not a makeup artist because she says she wasn't. So I'll take her word. But these Bigfoot heads wasn't that good, so she may have painted the faces. You never know, because they're horribly done. So it wouldn't take somebody with that much skill.
But even more powerful than that, in my mind, is the fact that when I listen to Todd react and defend himself against these personal accusations to do with him and his family, I believe the guy.
Way to be unbiased there, Cabin in the Woods. I really, honestly, myself, I don't believe a word that comes out of his mouth when it comes to talking about his Bigfoot interactions, ever. Not one time. None of this footage that he shows makes me scratch my chin and go, well, it could be, because it looks, with the exceptions of the big Bigfoot shoulder, back, that looks pretty good. But like I said, those two shots of the big massive Bigfoot from the back, over the shoulder camera, they also are similar shots. You can't see the legs, you can't see the face, and you can't see the arms moving, you can't see it breathing. It's just standing there and it ducks. Both footages. But it still looks pretty cool. But it's fake. That's what it is. So, no, I don't believe anything that comes out of Todd Standing's mouth. And I would be willing to debate both you guys at the same time.
When there were reports done on me, I looked these people's names up, and guess what? No even attempt to have a discussion with me. And I don't care how special effects you are, how PhD'd you are. If you didn't ever even attempt to interview a perfectly willing subject, from the only witness that was there, you are incompetent and you are a coward.
I don't care how far away something big is. You can just tell it's big. Then there's this. Even when it's far away, we can say, wow, that's big. And then there's this.
Well, they probably think if you're going to fake Bigfoot evidence and tell all these stories, then having an interview with you're just going to lie about it. I mean, I'm just being real. If somebody's going to lie, they're going to lie during the interview as well. But I'll tell you what, Todd, I'd be willing to debate you on your footage. You and me. If you can prove me wrong, then prove me wrong. But I would be down to see all the raw footage of all these encounters that you showed here. Not one run through your editor. Raw. It's crazy how we never get to see that. We only get to see right when the Bigfoot's on screen, then a quick cut. That is really strange. Why? It's a Bigfoot. Why cut it? Let us see all of it. But you never do that. That's why nobody trusts you. Comment below, guys, what your thoughts are. I'm sure I'll be taking a deeper dive into this guy, into all this Bigfoot stuff. And hey, I want to believe in Bigfoot. I really do. If Bigfoot was real, I'd be happy. I'd be like, man, that's awesome. But there's just nothing that supports it. Comment below your thoughts, guys. And I'll use it in a deeper dive because I know I'm going to be doing a deeper dive on this video. It won't be the next video because I plan on doing The Runner. Join the Bunkers Anonymous on Facebook. I love you guys. Yeah, this is the OG hoodie, and I'll see you in the next video. Y'all come back now, you hear? Peace.